From the Kennedy Space Center, America is blasting off into a new age of space exploration. For the first time ever, American astronauts will be launched on a privately owned spacecraft, and you'll be on the launch pad with us. The thrilling countdown to this historic event begins right now.
To demonstrate the full functionality of the system, SpaceX had to destroy one of its own Falcon 9 rockets in the process.
3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff.
Dragon launch escape initiated.
Dragon's away.
During an escape, they will likely pull between 4 and 6 Gs. It depends on the different variables and the situations.
I think it's really important that we retire as much risk as possible ahead of putting human lives at stake. So this is a big moment. Yes, it's exciting, but more than anything, it is still a first flight. That being said, as much risk as we can retire, space is always going to be hard. That's something that our astronauts have taught us.
Will all systems be a go? It's looking very positive, and we've got exclusive coverage right here.
Moshe, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kelly. Even singing from home, she sounds great. Bringing back in Christian Davenport. This is getting exciting, man. What is the latest at Kennedy Space Center?
You know, if you put a mic on the rocket, Chris, you could almost hear the rocket grunting and moaning, and as it's almost like hissing. It's about to come alive in these moments leading up to the launch. Now, right behind me is famous Firing Room 4, where everyone in Launch Control Center is getting ready to send this puppy on its way. Chris?
And it sounds like we were getting a little bit of natural sound from that fueling process. Really amazing stuff. And you can see from the shots there behind Christian that the weather seems to really be cooperating with us today. Thanks, Christian. We'll be back to you very, very soon. And joining us right now is former NASA engineer Mark Rober, who worked on the Mars Curiosity rover. And before I ask you to break down the science behind rockets, I hear that you actually included a little Easter egg, that is a hidden object, on the CAD drawing that you did of the rover. Tell me about that, Mark.
Yeah, so when I was at NASA, I'm working on the rover, so I had access to the CAD model. So I made like a photorealistic version of the rover, complete with like a red laser and red rocks. The press loved it. It's like one of the top search results still if you search for Curiosity rover. It's on the Wikipedia page. It was printed in textbooks. It wasn't until like a couple months ago that I fessed up. I actually photoshopped Alf, the lovable alien from the TV show, into the red rocks. And so, you know, people are always looking for evidence of extraterrestrial life. Turns out we've had evidence of aliens on Mars for like over a decade.
You're bringing me back to my childhood with that Alf reference. Now I guess we know where Alf is from. All right, Mark, now for the big one. How do rockets burn without oxygen in the vacuum of space?
This is such a great question. And an important corollary question is like, why don't we just use propellers in space? And the way to think about that is, you know, if you have a helicopter hovering, creates all this downwash, all this wind. Well, it's basically staying in the air by pushing down on all these air molecules. It's kind of like treading water in a pool. Problem with the space is there's no air molecules to push against. So what do? Well, I'll answer that with a riddle. Let's say you're an astronaut, you're working on the space station, you look down and your tether is unplugged, and you're sort of slowly drifting away from the space station. What do? You take that hammer, you throw it in the opposite direction you want to move. Newton's third law, conservation of momentum, says you're going to equal opposite force in the other directions, back towards the space station. That's all rockets are. They're big metal tubes, and they're just throwing hammers out the back, right? Now, obviously, it's a chemical reaction that doesn't require oxygen to work, and it's little particles. But fundamentally, a rocket is just throwing stuff in the opposite direction you want to move. That's why it can work in space, in a vacuum, with no air molecules, even when propellers won't.
You know, we are so lucky to have guys like you, because if it were up to guys like me, we would still be in the dark ages. Mark, really appreciate that information. We are just about 10 minutes away from launch time. Exciting, right? I know you're not going anywhere, so I don't have to tell you to stick around. We are now just about 5 minutes away from liftoff. Now, on Wednesday, the launch was scrubbed, unfortunately, but it's looking like it is going to happen today. You just saw a picture of the president. He is on site here at Kennedy Space Center. We hear launch control continuing to communicate with Bob and Doug up in the Dragon crew capsule.
Dragon has transitioned to configure for terminal count. Vehicle tanks pressing for strong back retract.
They, of course, are talking about the fueling process there that we are listening to and also seeing. And you can see stage 2 is being fueled now. That's the rocket that is directly beneath the Crew Dragon capsule. And that means that the stage 1, the Falcon 9 rocket, has been fueled, and now the stage 2 rocket is fueling. As we get down to 1 minute, we're going to lay out, we're going to listen to launch control communicating with Doug and Bob in the Dragon crew capsule. Good luck, gentlemen.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed for launch. Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug. Vehicle pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal. Falcon power and telemetry nominal. M1D throttle down.
That throttle down call is because they are getting ready to the most aerodynamic stressful part of this flight. So they take the power down just slightly.
And there is the 1,000 kilometers per hour mark. That's 621 miles per hour.
M1D throttle up.
They're throttling up. There's max Q, the max aerodynamic pressure peak, the most mechanical stress on the rocket. As I look up, and we can still see the orange glow, and I tell you what, it took 5 seconds for the vibration and sound from that liftoff to affect us here. You can still see it just screaming almost straight up, even though they're pointing a little bit downrange now.
Start of MVAC engine chill.
Approaching rapidly 3,000 kilometers per hour. That is 1,864 miles per hour.
And Chris, while you see that plume coming out of the back expanding, that's because there's not as much atmospheric pressure on it. So that's why it expands out like that. And we are getting, that first stage engine is going to fire for about another 20 seconds, 23 seconds or so.
And Christian, that is really a step that we want to pay attention to, that separation of the first stage that will then return back to Earth.
Yeah, we're going to get very busy here in about 5 seconds. You're going to see MECO, the main engine cut off, and then you're going to see the separation, and we're standing by for that.
MECO.
Falcon stage separation confirmed.
So the main shut down, and you see separation there too. That is the first stage falling away. So you're seeing in the first stage, you can see those grid fins that you mentioned, Chris Jacobs, that will help guide it. But at 8:45, so plus 8:45, coming up in about 2 minutes, you'll see 3 of those 9 engines fire to slow it down. The first stage doesn't have any of that protection when it comes back into the atmosphere. So the way they overcome that is by firing the engines and slowing it down enough that when it re-enters the atmosphere, it won't burn up. And it'll be a 34-second burn of that entry stage of those 3 engines to bring us in. And seeing some of these pictures of Doug and Bob in the capsule is just remarkable. We haven't seen a lot of American astronauts live.
Still good.
And just to clarify, that picture on the left is the Stage 2 rocket propelling the Crew Dragon capsule. The picture on the right is actually the Stage 1 Falcon 9 rocket returning to Earth. So those are actually moving in opposite directions as we pass the 15,000 kilometers per hour mark, which is approaching 9,400 miles per hour.
You know, Chris, SpaceX would love to get this booster back. And as we mentioned earlier, they learn a lot when they get these rockets back and take a look at them, but it is secondary. That's the picture on your left. The second stage, as Massimino said, that's what you want to burn. You want that burn to go exactly as it should on the right trajectory. This was an instantaneous launch. They had to go at the right time. There's your start of your entry burn on the right. You're seeing it.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Yeah, this slows it down. This will go on for about 35 seconds, as I mentioned, just to slow it down. And if you watch those grid fins, you can start to see them kind of move. And that's what keeps this, as we heard earlier in one of the pieces, you know, landing a pencil, that's what keeps it north and south or up and down as it's coming down back into land. And it is landing on a drone ship in the Atlantic. So that burn is over. The next thing we're going to see at 9:27.
MVAC throttle step.
Everything's good, they say. Those are the reports from Mission Control. So coming up in about a minute, we'll see the final burn. And as Davenport has told us before, you don't always get to see the landing because, you know, you got a camera that's getting shaken, and, you know, this is a rocket actually that's coming back to there. You lost the picture. That's kind of what happens.
And there's the 25,000 kilometers per hour, which is 15,534 miles per hour. So again, continuing to accelerate as they make their way to orbit.
MVAC throttle step. MVAC shutdown.
There's the second stage engine cutoff right there.
That's good news, Chris. That means that they've got their
SpaceX nominal orbital insertion.
There they go.
Launch escape system is disarmed.
That's great news. And that's even better news. So they're in the orbit they're supposed to be in. They have just de-armed the escape system. They are where they're supposed to be at the right time. And in a couple of minutes, we will see separation of the Dragon and loss of that second stage. That's really good news. And Chris, you asked a little bit about the atmosphere down here. There were some people here, even though they didn't open the gates, who were applauding as that Falcon 9 took off and really rattled our chests.
And it looks like Falcon 9 has returned successfully to that drone ship. Just amazing, amazing technology that quickly, in under 10 minutes, that Falcon 9 rocket has propelled Doug and Bob into orbit and has returned safely to its drone trip. I mean, hats off to SpaceX for developing that technology. Truly incredible. Joining me right now is a man who knows a lot about what Bob and Doug are going through at the moment. He is former NASA shuttle astronaut and Columbia University professor Mike Massimino. Mike, just 11 and a half minutes into their 19-hour journey, so a lot longer to go before they reach the ISS. What do they do now for the next 18 hours and 50 minutes?
Yeah, they get ready. You know, they have to transfer to an orbital stage. We used to call it post-insertion. I'm sure they still call it the same thing. There's usually no rest for the weary. There's plenty of things to do. They're going to have to set up their cockpit so they can get ready to do their rendezvous. They're probably going to get some rest coming up here, I would think, before they do rendezvous, the final rendezvous and docking.
Dragon separation confirmed.
It's been a while since either of these guys have been in space. Doug, it's been almost 9 years, and Bob maybe just a little bit longer than that. I was a Capcom for his last flight, so they've got to get their space legs back. And sometimes you don't feel as well as you'd like when you first unstrap, because your body's getting used to it. Your vestibular system is not working any longer. But I think these guys will probably be just fine.
I understand that Bob and Doug have opened their visors inside the Crew Dragon capsule. I believe that gives them a view. Mike Massimino, I want to bring you in because you're the only one who knows firsthand what they must be experiencing. What are they looking out on right now?
Well, the thing you want to do as soon as you get to orbit is unstrap and take a look. If you need to unstrap or look through the window, you want to take a look and look back at our beautiful planet. It is extraordinary. We can see pictures, we can see some high-fidelity video, but there's nothing like being there and actually seeing it. And when I looked at our planet from space, what I thought to myself was, this must be what heaven looks like. It is an absolute paradise. And you can look and see the blackness of space in the other direction. We've checked out the neighborhood. You realize we only have this one option. It's very fragile. You see that thin atmosphere. If you think of the Earth as an onion, the top layer, that top skinny layer of the onion is the size relationship of the atmosphere of our planet to our planet. You see that. You can see that in these images. And you realize how lucky we are to be here. And it changed my view of how I feel about our home. It's a home we all share, and it is an absolute paradise. So that's what they're looking at.
And we're getting a really nice picture of that on our feed right now, I presume, from where Bob and Doug are up on the Crew Dragon capsule. David Curley, please weigh in. Give us a sense of what it's like down there at Cape Canaveral. I mean, of course, relief, major joy. What's the feeling like right now?
There's a delay. You know, this speed of sound is fast, but it's not that fast. And it took a while for the sound to hit us. And then the vibration, that rocket fuel and oxygen, when it's burning, it's just, you can feel it. It's just trying to rip the air apart. It was fantastic to see these guys get to the place they wanted to be at the right time. They've done all that. Now, it's a 19-hour journey to the space station, and Massimino talked about it a little bit. They have specific things they are doing, because this is a test mission. They're going to make sure it's a habitable environment inside the capsule of Dragon. They're going to try and eat, drink, and, as somebody at SpaceX said earlier, do whatever kind of bio work they have to do. And then they want to sleep. NASA wants them to sleep. Everybody wants them to sleep. See if you can sleep inside this capsule.
Thank you very much, David Curley. You know what? Remember this day, because you're going to remember exactly where you were when SpaceX launched their Crew Dragon into space. May 30th, 2020. You're going to